It's crazy. The other thing that was brought up in the books and is the idea of that the Twin Towers came down as a result of a controlled demolition. The societies of architects have all looked at the situation. I think you can certainly Google what the organization of architects are saying regarding the Twin Towers, and that it all looked very much like a controlled demolition. Building 7 also, which was not hit by an airplane that said that it was on fire, that also collapsed in itself, and they said, well, that looks like a controlled demolition. And
So there was more than just the 2 buildings?
Yeah, there was a building 7 that went down, if you look at it, and it wasn't hit by planes. It just simply, at one point, they pull it. And they pulled it, and that plane just collapsed on it, or that building. I think it was like, I forget how many stories, 17 or 20 stories. It just collapsed on itself. So there were 3 buildings that went down on its footprint. So what they're saying is that in order for a building, even if you had it collapsing, pancaking, like they're saying happened, there still has to be steel resistance as it's coming down. But they're saying that the buildings actually came down. If you put a bowling ball next to the building, it would hit at the same time, and the bowling ball had nothing to, all right? But the buildings came down at about the same rate as the bowling ball. So they were saying, well, that can only happen if you sever structure that allows it to come down like that. You know, it'll free fall. So they're presenting that as an issue in terms of how the buildings collapsed. I think President Bush, when he was younger, he even said when he was younger, that looks like a controlled demolition. He said on one of his interviews, he didn't push it, didn't press it, but that was the thing. Now there was also concern about what went into the Twin Towers, and there is video of planes going in to the Twin Towers. The question is, were they the commercial planes? Were they some other object planes that were going into the Twin Towers? And so that was a controversy that is brought up. The other thing that was brought up is that there was a mock exercise on 9/11 in that area with the same scenario. Planes are going into the Twin Towers, and our pilots are up there. And then they began to call in things that are happening in the Twin Towers, that they're collapsing. Mm-hmm. And these pilots are saying, is this part of our exercise, or is this really happening? And so they were confused about, eventually they said, this is really happening. And we even had some guys and I know the pilots, out of the 122nd that went after that plane in Chicago, or that was heading towards Chicago. Mm-hmm. And so even our guys were involved in, because it was what's going on here? I mean, these rogue planes that are flying around, and so there was question about that. They knew that planes hit the Twin Towers. What they were questioning is, was it the commercial jets that were a part of that? Now, Rebecca Roth says that there was a military plane called the Speckled Trout back in 2011 that had very high level technology, and that plane went up and it was heading for, I forget, overseas or something, but then they were going to turn around, but they were circling, near our area, and Roth says that these planes back then were very specific, that they could actually put up radar where there is a plane that there isn't a plane. And so the jets would go there and they said, no visual, there's no plane. And then they could take a plane that was in the air and they could say that plane doesn't exist. And so it wouldn't come on the radar of our pilots. So they were up there, she's saying they're probably up there with that thing, orchestrating whatever they orchestrate.
They could ignore or dismiss an artifact.
Sure, because they're taking their orders from Central Command, and so which probably would be that plane. They're giving orders, right? Go here. Sir, there's nobody in front of us. I mean, other times they would say, we got on our radar that's a plane, and it would be wiped off their screen that it's no longer. So they wouldn't know where to go because they can't see the plane where it's heading. So there was she's saying there was that aspect perhaps that was going on in terms of whether it was detection or stealth detection. There was no detection or there was detection. Again, that mock exercise and the scenario, so that presents confusion as what these pilots are supposed to do until they finally dial them in.
Right.
You know? As far as the Pentagon, what she proposes is that in other airline, if you look up airline people that are experts in flying these commercial,
Jumbos, yeah.
they say that if you're too low to the ground, it's too unstable. So if you have to go like 200 or 300 miles an hour to keep that plane, that it's so unstable that close to the ground. So many of them are saying that we couldn't even fly it into the Pentagon because of the maneuvering and the aerodynamics of it. So I never flew a plane. I don't know what it's all about. But if they're saying that's impossible, the scenario is saying that these limited people in these small aircraft could not adapt that quickly to a larger aircraft.
Why would they dial back the speed?
Well, because 500 miles an hour, I understand, is really unstable.
No, 500 miles an hour would be a lot more smooth.
Well, it would be up there, but they say when it's denser, the air is denser down below.
That could be. I don't know.
That's what they're saying. It's the density of the air.
Because when they come in for a landing, they're only going about 120 miles
correct,
an hour.
yeah. And they come in slower as they come down and get the airways. So, I mean, the other thing that they questioned on the Pentagon is that they did see an engine, but it was like a single engine, and they did see more of a round hole that went into the Pentagon. They said that object that went into the Pentagon actually hit the area where the Navy intelligence that were doing an investigation on, I forget, Rumsfeld said, I don't know how many trillions of dollars that were missing, that went into where all those files were. So whether that's true or not true, I mean, somebody's suggesting that that's where that plane hit. The other question was, well, then wings have got to hit each side, even if they go in and they
usually break off.
They would break off, but you got to see wings. They said if it was a commercial airliner, there's got to be some luggage or something there. It's got to be thrown all over the place or whatever. It's not. And then they said the titanium engines, there's got to be two major engines, and the rate out there's something rate out on titanium. They're not going to melt. But the public would say, well, they evaporated or they melted, but they're saying this defies the law of physics and what we see in other air crashes. So we're going to have to look at air crashes and what's left on the ground with air crashes commercially, and we should find similar things at the Pentagon if it was an airplane. The other thing they said, Pentagon's got missiles that you can't just fly towards the Pentagon. They have a missile system that if a plane is coming at them, or even if a rocket, that they're able to lock in on that thing and send it, And they said they didn't operationalize them at the time, and then they also said that there's so many cameras around the Pentagon that whatever infringes on the Pentagon space, they got it from more angles than you would think. All right, they're questioning, well, where is that data? Where is the data that would come out of that? The other thing she questioned was thermite. Thermite, when it explodes, from what I understand, it creates such heat of 2,000 or something that it actually slices through the metal, and what it leaves is almost like a weld or like a beating, because it melts it, melts it, and that's what a controlled demolition is about. And they found thermite in all of the stuff that was waste on the ground. Now, a lot of the computers were pulverizing. None of that stuff was left. Literally turned into dust. I mean, that kind of a force of concrete coming down on this stuff is.
The heat alone would.
Just the heat alone and that friction. And but I was able at the Atomic Energy Commission to see a piece of the Twin Towers metal, and it had that almost welding or that beating, that melting. on the thing, and it was just a piece. The other thing that they questioned, she was saying, was that considering it was a controlled demolition, all the steel that came down were all the same size, and they could load it up on trucks. And they loaded it up on trucks, and of course it had the thermite signature. Loaded it up on trucks, all that steel, and they sent it off to China to be melted down or whatever they do with the thing. So all these things can be, I mean, if you're a researcher, I mean, she certainly was, but anybody outside of her thought process could certainly, ask the questions and probably find, what happened to the steel, perhaps. You got to be good at what you do. It's not for me. I'm just reading the book. I'm giving you my sense of what happened. And I think the lady is sincere. I think that she's very brilliant. She's smart. She probably could have been anything in life. And I think that she is uncovering some of the more nefarious things that occurred during that particular time. And there's more disturbing things. She says that the planes that they said that hit the Twin Towers weren't commercial planes. There were other planes that were dispatched to hit the towers. And she said that those planes, 3 of them, were diverted to Westover Air Force Base, just outside of Boston. And she says that it'd be like in Fort Wayne, if there was a major emergency and those flights had to take off, it would be like our airmen and women would go assemble at the 122nd, and when they reached the 122nd, they were told, you cannot come on base. And they said, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to house you in a hotel. And so you wait there until we need whatever they tell them. And they got to do that, all right? That's what happened, she's saying, at Westover Air Force Base, that when they came to Westover, they said, you're not permitted. Well, so how about the security team? They said it's already secured by the sheriff's department. So they have the perimeter teams that secure the base, all right? So we already got that covered through the sheriff's department, which is actually in Westover. That's the one that was on the perimeter. And they didn't want soldiers on there, right? And so they couldn't get on. They were put up in hotels. It can be confirmed. Westover was shut down. You got to dig, and I'm sure there's people how to dig into these things, but it's not going to be common everyday knowledge, but I'm sure you can pull. But a lot of the people from Westover called this Rebecca Roth and said, yeah, we weren't allowed on base, and they wouldn't permit us, and they wouldn't permit the perimeter team on base. They didn't want anybody well, they don't want them there. Rebecca says what they did is they flew these planes in the Westover Air Force Base, all 3 of them, the ones that were supposed to be in the towers or wherever they were shot down, right? And she listened to the dialogue between people, some of the stewardesses that were on the plane, and the person that she thought was in Westover. And she's getting information from these, because she knew some of these gals. She flew with them. In fact, she was almost supposed to fly on 9/11, this girl. And so she goes, none of this is making sense. She's saying the protocols for if we get hijacked, there's very specific things that we're to do. And that protocol, none of them were done. Why would they not be done? Well, they weren't done. And so she began to think that some people were in on it and some weren't on the airplanes. And that once they got into Westover, the people that were in, and it's only need to know, Larry, apparently it would be only need to know. So the pilots that were in on it, or some of the stewardesses that were, and some that weren't, they were told to stay on the plane and, take care of the whatever people on the plane. And she said, this is disturbing stuff. She said that those people would get off the plane. And I don't know where they went, what they did. And that she began to hear through cellular phone on the plane that people were talking about the gas was coming into them. They were choking and they were vomiting. And so Roth, I don't know how she came to this conclusion, was that the people on the plane, there was limited because they didn't have a full planes, all right? they limited the number of people. They didn't want, like, whatever holds a plane, a large plane. So whatever the aftermath was, they wanted it to be limited in terms of death on the plane, so they gassed them. And so Roth is suggesting CIA was involved, certain elements of the FBI, but they're on the on the exterior somewhere, and the Mossad was involved. But the CIA would not gas American citizens, but she says that the Mossad gassed them. Then, after they were dead, they put them into body bags. They flew them to Andrews Air Force Base, and Andrews Air Force Base has a crematorium, and they got rid of the bodies. Well, there's got to be bodies if you fly a plane with passengers. There's got to be some flesh butchered.
There's always clothing shards and stuff like
something,
that.
right? Anything, like a fingernail or something. But at any rate, this is disturbing, and she hedges on this thing with the Mossad because anytime you got to remember the Jewish state, the people in Israel, any more than the people in the United States, goes along with stuff like this, whether it's CIA, Mossad, or wherever it is. We just don't. That's not what we do here in the United States. We don't go along with that. It's evil. So you talk about the flood of evil, and it has to be evil to pull something like that off. But it was for the CIA to deny that they were involved in any kind of a murder. You know what I mean? So they fielded out to whoever they want to field it out to. So this is disturbing because, now they take a look at Rebecca Roth and says she's anti-Semitic and what is she trying to say? We would never do this thing. And I don't know. We'll do it's with the evil and with the evil, flooding the world. I don't know who's capable of doing what. At any rate, that's disturbing. And then she's saying they tracked down, like she said, a number of different people. Saudi Arabia sued because stop using the name of these people and so on and so forth. Well, let's face it. I wouldn't know who Muhammad this is or that one is. I mean, I couldn't. Who could do this kind of research and even tell you?
Apparently they can.
Well, I mean, you got to be brilliant. You got very brilliant in hearing names and faces, and you got to be outside of the.
Well, if you're not familiar with it, it's all going to be different.
It is.
Yeah, but if you're an insider, a lot of it's second, nature to you.
So that's an overall picture of the disturbing, if you read the books. And she learns as she goes because she initially thought that the planes were directed there by an automatic system that takes over the plane. But she said, then she finally said, well, now, in order to get into those hangars, and somebody's got to be involved with this kind of a thing. And she's talking about, there was a great amount of gold that was towards the end. When they got to the bottom of the pile, there was a lot of gold. The hijacking of taking gold from the Twin Towers and stuff, and apparently they had to give the gold back to the country. They didn't get away with it, but I mean they were talking about planes, like the people that were involved in it got on these planes and flew out to Arizona or Nevada, and a lot of these people that were involved in it, they call it a false flag, but I mean there's a couple of questions. One, why would anybody go to this degree? Killing people and all around. I mean, you can get away with this kind of thing with a lot less of a mess, couldn't you? All you got to do is bring the Twin Towers down. We're all shitting our pants.
Well, why do we got to kill the towers? Why the Twin Towers? I mean, can you just like?
They wanted to. Apparently, they wanted to shock us that they could get at us, and they can. Let's face it. Whoever it was is evil. I don't care what you call them, whether it's Muslim or Islamic or rogue CIA or FBI. I mean, you look at the FBI. They go into President Trump's house with guns. And what are you, crazy?
Well, they had to get through Melania's underwear drawer.
Okay, I go for that. I
mean, it takes guns.
Oh, I think I would go for that.
I mean,
I got a little.
She's a hell of a woman. Got to protect that stuff.
So my overall sense is, I think that she began to stumble on things, and I think that she started to uncover stuff. She learned as she went, and she got feedback from people from Westover and all the rest of it. And all of a sudden, I mean, this thing is looking frightening because if they can pull something like this off, if they decide they want to release germs, or the COVID was another thing, right? Shut the whole country down. If they decided, you know something, they're waking up.
Well, if they can do that, they can change an election.
Right. They can do anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I'm not saying this is the gospel. I'm saying that this is a lady of all the people that research 9/11. I think this lady here, and what I suggest, you can buy some of her books, or even more so, go on the internet and listen to her presentation, and you'll get a sense of, is this lady, what's the motive? Why is this lady doing this thing? And is she really on target? Does she have, what do they call it, receipts now? Does she have any receipts on this thing? And I think that what you're going to find is, you don't have to go along with the whole scenario that she's saying, but I think what she is saying is, however it happened, whoever was involved, we're in danger because the technology back then, 25 years later, God knows what they have. And if they decide that the middle class in the United States needs to be taken care of, I'm afraid to say, folks, that they probably can, and at a level that we've never probably experienced or understood.
And it's been discussed a lot of times at these green events, these big meetings that they have.
Yeah.
It's always been one of their discussion points was population control.
Okay.
And
do they really mean it? Population control?
Oh yeah, they want to reduce the population. There's a definite desire to limit the population. That's one of the things that happened about 2012. They had one of these Bilderberg meetings where they all come together. No one can go to it. No one can, cover what's going on, what they're saying behind the walls.
What's the Bilderberg, Larry?
It's like the one world order people,
high-level people,
the Rothschilds,
that make decisions.
the hoi polloi. We know better than you, so don't you worry your pretty little head. We'll take care of everything, those types of folks. And what they came out of that with was they said that the keys to saving the planet, reducing carbon emissions, doing all this other stuff, going to plant-based diets, things like this, and reducing our population.
So are these diets that they're suggesting will kill us or starve us or what?
It'll limit your caloric intake. You get away from eating beef. They want to get rid of beef.
I like beef.
I like beef too, but they want to get rid of it. All right, and they say that beef is an impractical food source and uses too many resources, causes too much carbon footprint.
Okay.
They have all this talking points, but what the hell about the fish? But
right.
But I don't know what fish do on a carbon footprint, but that's not my concern with this. But what they do have is a desire to limit the population. And one of the things that started about 2012, and you can go back because I kind of followed it, was a lot of this transsexual, gay unions and all like this.
So that would limit population.
That's a natural.
Okay.
So they're thinking by this changing of the normal operations of our sexual behaviors and our sexual desires and
will
things
reduce
like
the
that
population
by 5%.
That ain't enough then.
Well, that's a natural decline. They'll take the 5% drop.
Okay.
Now what they wanted to do then was to increase the use of birth control, either proactive or reactive, to use more birth pills or to have the morning after pill and stuff like that, which happens to be made by the same company that made the gas
for the Jews.
For the Jews.
Oh, jeez.
They just changed the name of the German company.
Oh, God.
So now they're the ones that provide the Plan B or the abortion pill.
Still in the business of
killing.
Oh,
but they've done something even more.
Right.
They got a 2-step pill now to elect death. So you could do your MAID, medically assisted induced death. That's the new thing is MAID, MAID. Medically
for us elderly people?
For anybody.
So if you decide suicide, you can give you a pill.
Right. You can go to Canada right now and do it.
Oh my God!
Canada right now, they got about 10,000 a year.
So they're actually encouraging people an easy way to kill themselves.
And this is where they give people the MAID medications.
Well, then,
There's two pills to it.
Larry, this killing ain't nothing.
No,
This is just
no. They're looking for bigger fish, more fish. They want to reduce the population of the world by at least 500 million. At least
yeah. But how many billions in the world?
8. They want to get us down to about 3 to 5.
So they want to crush us.
Right. Well, look at what's going on in China. China had their one-child policy. Everyone went for.
Yeah, but they went in trouble with that.
Well, they're in big trouble. India's doing the same thing now.
Now they're in trouble with that, aren't they?
Yeah, nobody has a cousin.
So what? They're asking for
There's
more
no families.
So they want more kids now, or what? Now they want more.
No,
Are they going to continue?
but they got a problem because they didn't have kids and they didn't have women. They
to
had
take care of the elderly.
well to keep the economy going. They've got no customers for their products.
So they're almost. You're saying what they're doing is actually working against them.
Exactly.
So they're killing themselves off.
Exactly.
Wow.
You got a bunch of dudes running around in China right now with no women, no jobs. You got 30%.
Sure, because they killed the girls. They killed the women, didn't they?
Right. Who they gonna marry?
Nobody.
Yeah. No. Fang ain't getting no bang bang. Okay, so
I like that.
it's
I like that.
yeah, Eric Swalwell and his Fang.
Eric.
But it's just it's short sighted. They took care of a problem that they're having with an overwhelming population increase. They thought this was the way to stem it, but now they don't have cousins. They don't have family networks, and so
And they were very family oriented.
right, and so that's all left.
That was the thing that gave them any health, really.
Well, that's what's left Chinese culture now.